Have you ever worried that the healthy protein you're eating could secretly be causing painful kidney stones? It's a really common fear, but understanding the culprits can put you right back in control. You see, consuming animal protein has been linked to an increased risk of kidney stone formation. Certain types of these proteins can actually alter your urine chemistry, boost uric acid excretion, and reduce the compounds that normally protect you, creating an environment where stones can develop much more easily. So today, we're going to explore the top 5 animal proteins that may trigger kidney stones, and we'll break down the mechanisms, the risks, and the evidence behind each one. Number 1, red meat, beef, pork, lamb. First up is red meat, which includes popular choices like beef, pork, and lamb. This is often the first food group that comes to mind when we talk about dietary risks for kidney stones, and for very good reason. For anyone who's susceptible to forming stones, a diet rich in red meat presents a pretty significant and complex challenge to kidney health. Its impact isn't just tied to one single factor, but rather a combination of chemical changes that create the perfect environment for crystals to form and grow inside the urinary tract. One of the biggest concerns with red meat is its high concentration of compounds called purines. Your body naturally breaks down the purines from the foods you eat, and one of the end products of this process is uric acid. So when you eat a lot of high purine foods like red meat, your body produces more uric acid. This raises the uric acid levels in your urine, which can lead directly to the formation of uric acid stones, one of the most common types of kidney stones. But beyond its purine content, red meat also contributes a substantial acid load to your body. Animal proteins are rich in sulfur-containing amino acids, and when they're metabolized, they produce acid. Your kidneys have to work hard to filter and get rid of this excess acid just to maintain your body's delicate pH balance. This process, however, makes the urine itself more acidic, causing the urinary pH to drop. A lower urinary pH is a primary risk factor for uric acid stones because uric acid is less soluble in acidic environments, which makes it much more likely to crystallize. This increased urinary acidity has another important effect. It reduces the levels of urinary citrate. Citrate is a powerful natural inhibitor of kidney stone formation. It works by binding to calcium in the urine, which prevents calcium oxalate and calcium phosphate crystals from ever forming. Citrate also helps stop existing crystals from sticking together and growing into larger, painful stones. So, when red meat consumption lowers your urine pH, it also suppresses citrate, effectively removing one of your body's key defenses against stone formation. And the clinical evidence strongly supports these mechanisms. Studies comparing different dietary patterns have consistently shown that diets high in animal protein, especially red meat, lead to the highest urinary excretion of something called undissociated uric acid. This is the form of uric acid that is most prone to crystallizing in acidic urine. Therefore, for anyone with a history of kidney stones or those identified as high risk, limiting red meat intake is a cornerstone of any preventative dietary strategy. So, while red meat poses a clear risk, it's far from the only animal protein you need to be mindful of. Let's move on to another staple that's common in many of our diets. Number 2, poultry, chicken, turkey. All right, let's talk about poultry. Chicken and turkey are often considered a leaner, healthier alternative to red meat, and they're a staple in diets all over the world. And while poultry does offer excellent nutritional benefits as a source of lean protein, it's important for people prone to kidney stones to understand that it shares some of the same risks as red meat. Its impact on urine chemistry means that even these healthier choices need to be consumed with awareness and in moderation to support your kidney health. Just like red meat, poultry is a significant source of purines. When your body metabolizes the purines from chicken or turkey, it produces uric acid as a byproduct. This means that regular or excessive consumption can lead to elevated levels of uric acid in the urine, a condition known as hyperuricosuriia. This directly increases the risk of forming uric acid stones, since the higher concentration of uric acid makes it more likely to crystallize and solidify within the kidneys, especially when your urine is acidic. Eating poultry also contributes to the overall acid load in the body, which creates an acidifying effect in the urine. The metabolism of the amino acids found in chicken and turkey releases acids into the bloodstream, which your kidneys then have to filter out. This effort to maintain balance results in more acidic urine, shown by a lower urinary pH. This acidic environment not only promotes the formation of uric acid stones, but also compromises your body's natural defenses against other types of stones. One of the key protective factors against kidney stones is that compound we mentioned earlier, citrate. As we discussed, citrate helps prevent calcium-based stones from forming by binding with calcium. Unfortunately, the acidifying effect caused by a high intake of poultry can lead to lower levels of citrate in the urine. With less citrate available to inhibit crystal formation, the risk of developing both calcium oxalate and uric acid stones goes up, making the urinary environment much more conducive to their growth. In addition to lowering citrate, some studies suggest that a high intake of animal protein, including poultry, can increase the amount of calcium that's excreted in the urine. This condition, called hypercalciuria, is a major risk factor for the formation of calcium oxalate stones, which happen to be the most common type of kidney stone. When there is an excess of both calcium and oxalate in the urine, they are far more likely to bind together and form hard, painful crystals. Because of all these combined effects, dietary guidelines for kidney stone prevention often caution against eating too much poultry. For those with a history of stones, moderation is absolutely key. This means paying close attention to your portion sizes and making sure to balance your poultry intake with plenty of plant-based foods and good hydration. Moving from the land to the sea, another popular source of protein also carries a notable risk for stone formation. Number 3, fish and seafood. Next, we have fish and seafood. Now, we all know that fish and seafood are widely celebrated for their health benefits, particularly their rich content of omega-3 fatty acids that support heart and brain health. However, for individuals who are susceptible to forming kidney stones, especially uric acid stones, this category of animal protein requires very careful consideration. You see, certain types of fish and shellfish contain some of the highest levels of purines found in any food group, making them a potent trigger for stone formation. The main concern with fish and seafood is their remarkably high purine content. Purines are natural substances that, when broken down by the body, produce uric acid. While all animal proteins contain purines, some varieties of fish and shellfish are exceptionally concentrated sources. This means that consuming them can cause a rapid and significant spike in your body's uric acid production, leading to higher levels of uric acid in both your blood and your urine. Certain varieties are particularly known for their purine density. Small, oily fish like anchovies, sardines, and herring are among the highest. Similarly, shellfish such as mussels, scallops, and shrimp also contain substantial amounts. For someone at risk, a single meal featuring these types of seafood can be enough to overload the system with purines and drastically increase the concentration of uric acid in their urine. This surge in uric acid production is a major trigger for the formation of uric acid stones. When the urine becomes oversaturated with uric acid, especially in an acidic environment, the uric acid can no longer stay dissolved. It begins to crystallize, forming sharp, solid stones in the kidneys or urinary tract. This process is actually the same one that leads to gout, which is a painful form of arthritis caused by uric acid crystals depositing in the joints, and it's quite common for the two conditions to coexist. Given this strong link, medical authorities and official dietary guidelines consistently recommend that people with a history of uric acid stones or gout limit their intake of high purine fish and seafood. While it might not be necessary to eliminate fish from your diet entirely, choosing lower purine options like cod or tilapia and eating them in moderation is a much safer approach. Balancing these meals with proper hydration is also crucial to help dilute your urine and flush out excess uric acid before it has a chance to crystallize. Now, let's look at another common breakfast staple that contributes to stone risk in a more subtle way. Number 4, eggs. Let's talk about eggs. Eggs are a widely consumed source of high-quality protein, and they're valued for their versatility and nutritional profile. When it comes to kidney stone risk, though, they occupy a pretty unique position. Compared to red meat, poultry, or high-purine seafood, eggs are relatively low in purines. However, they are still an animal protein and contribute to stone risk through a different but important mechanism, their effect on urinary acidity and chemistry. For this reason, moderation is still a very wise approach. The main way that eggs influence kidney stone risk is through their acid-forming effects. Like other animal proteins, eggs contain sulfur-containing amino acids, such as methionine. When your body metabolizes these amino acids, it produces sulfuric acid, which adds to the body's overall acid load. The kidneys then have to work to neutralize and excrete this acid, which in turn makes the urine more acidic and lowers its pH level. This more acidic urinary environment creates conditions that are less favorable for preventing stones. Even a small decrease in urine pH can have a significant impact. An acidic environment not only encourages the crystallization of uric acid, but also affects the solubility of other substances in the urine, potentially creating a cascade effect that promotes the development of different types of stones over time. A key consequence of this increased urinary acidity is the reduction of urinary citrate. As we've learned, citrate is a vital, naturally occurring inhibitor of kidney stones. It works by binding to calcium, preventing it from combining with oxalate or phosphate to form crystals. When the urine becomes more acidic from metabolizing foods like eggs, the kidneys reabsorb more citrate, meaning less is available in the urine to perform its protective function. This decrease in urinary citrate modestly raises the overall risk of stone formation. Because their impact is less direct than that of high purine meats, eggs are not typically considered a primary trigger. However, their contribution to the acid load is cumulative. So, moderation is advised, especially for people who already have a diet rich in other animal proteins. Combining eggs with other acid-forming foods like meat or fish in the same meal can really amplify the total acid load, further stressing the kidneys and increasing your risk for stones. All right, next up, we're going to look at a category of animal protein that's considered one of the most powerful triggers for stone formation. Number 5, organ meats, liver, kidney. And finally, we come to organ meats. Foods like liver, kidneys, sweetbreads, and tripe were once a common part of many traditional diets, valued for their rich concentration of vitamins and minerals. However, from the perspective of preventing kidney stones, they represent one of the biggest dietary risks out there. Due to their exceptionally high purine content and potent effect on urine chemistry, organ meats are considered powerful triggers for uric acid stone formation and are strongly discouraged for at-risk individuals. The most critical factor that makes organ meats so problematic is their extremely high concentration of purines. Purines are found in the cells of all living things, and they are particularly concentrated in metabolically active tissues like the liver and kidneys. When you consume these organs, you are ingesting a massive dose of purines. The body then breaks these purines down into uric acid, leading to a sharp and substantial increase in uric acid levels in both the blood and the urine. This flood of uric acid creates a state of supersaturation in the urine, making it impossible for the uric acid to remain dissolved. This is the perfect environment for uric acid crystals to form and clump together into stones. For someone with a predisposition to uric acid stones, consuming even a small portion of organ meat can be enough to trigger the formation of new stones or the growth of existing ones. In addition to their massive purine load, organ meats contribute a significant acid load to the body after they're metabolized. The breakdown of these dense proteins produces a large amount of acid, which the kidneys must work diligently to excrete. This process results in a notable drop in urinary pH, making the urine highly acidic. This acidic environment dramatically reduces the solubility of uric acid, compounding the risk already created by the high purine content and making crystallization almost inevitable. Because of this powerful 1-2 punch, extremely high purines, and a substantial acid load healthcare providers and dietary guidelines for gout and kidney stone prevention are very clear in their recommendations. Individuals with a history of uric acid stones or gout are strongly advised to avoid organ meats altogether. The risk they pose is simply too high to be considered a safe part of a preventative diet for these conditions. How animal protein alters urine chemistry. So, you might be wondering, how exactly does animal protein do all this? Well, the link between a high intake of animal protein and an increased risk of kidney stones is really rooted in fundamental changes to your urine chemistry. When you eat animal proteins, your body's metabolic processes create byproducts that alter the urinary environment, making it much more hospitable to crystal formation. This involves an increase in the acid load, which your kidneys have to manage. This effort, in turn, lowers the urine pH, making it more acidic. This acidic environment then raises the urinary excretion of calcium and uric acid, while at the same time reducing levels of citrate, that keystone inhibitor. Together, these changes heighten the supersaturation of stone-forming minerals like calcium oxalate and uric acid. This just means the concentration of these substances becomes too high to stay dissolved, leading them to crystallize and form stones. Dietary recommendations for prevention. So, what can you do to protect your kidneys and prevent stones? Here are a few key strategies. First, limit your intake of the high-risk animal proteins we've discussed, particularly red meat, organ meats, and high purine seafood. Pay close attention to your portion sizes and how often you're eating these foods. Second, prioritize hydration by drinking plenty of water throughout the day. This helps dilute your urine and flush out minerals before they ever get a chance to form stones. Finally, make sure you are getting enough dietary calcium from sources like dairy products or fortified foods. Contrary to some old beliefs, adequate dietary calcium is actually protective. It works by binding with oxalate in your intestines, which prevents it from being absorbed and then excreted in the urine. This ultimately lowers your risk of forming calcium oxalate stones. Balancing these recommendations is the key to a kidney-friendly diet. To sum it all up, animal proteins, especially red meat, poultry, seafood, eggs, and organ meats, can significantly increase kidney stone risk for susceptible individuals by altering their urine chemistry. Understanding their dietary impact, from raising uric acid to lowering protective citrate, is absolutely vital. Making informed choices and prioritizing moderation is a cornerstone of prevention and will support your long-term kidney health. If you found this information helpful, Please consider sharing this article to help others understand the connection between diet and kidney stones. Subscribe for more expert advice on kidney health, and feel free to leave a comment below with your questions or even your personal experiences to share with others about diet and kidney stone prevention.